in a bad light, they would do it.
Do you think that might have been goaded and fed by infiltrators within the nation?
Sure, no question about it. I think that Mr. Hoover was at work, other government agencies were at work, and there were persons, I'm sure there were some rich Americans and rich persons from other parts who saw him as a threat to the capitalist system. And as a result of this, perhaps had their own people in there goading, disrupting. I think it would not have been too difficult to have had people there at Elijah Muhammad's side, people who were not true believers, but who were there saying, look what Malcolm is doing. Malcolm is acting like he's the leader, and that you aren't the leader, sir. And if you're beginning to grow in age, and you hear people telling you this, it takes a good deal of strength that you may not have to resist seeing Malcolm not as the friend that he truly was, and I can attest to, but as an enemy who was trying to take over the throne.
None of them had ever been the friend or been the servant to Messenger Elijah Muhammad that Malcolm had been. And they weren't trying to help the messenger in doing that. They were trying to cut Malcolm off from him and get him out of the way so that they could, in their opportunist way, take advantage of the situation.
Did you have a sense that Elijah was envious of Malcolm?
Well, I think there's no doubt that he was envious of Malcolm. This, unfortunately, is a part of the history of mankind. In the jungles, we have it in animals. We have the old boar who no longer can procreate, and the young boar is there coming along. First he fights him off, tries to knock him out so that he's not with the herd anymore, and then he's gone. In humanity, we have the people who are in power, and then there's that bright young person who's coming along. They feel that the person in power feels that he or she is going to be disposed of. They fight, and they keep the person from rising. The old, unfortunately, sometimes don't want the young to rise up and be powerful because they're afraid of being displaced. I think certainly there's no question in my mind that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was unhappy with the power of Malcolm X.
He called me up from Chicago one day, and he told me, he says, I want you to meet me at the airport. He said, I'm on the way out back to the East Coast. He was in Chicago. He said, I'm on my way back to the East Coast, but there's something I want to talk to you about before I go there. So I'll get my ticket in a way where I can stop off and lay over in Detroit for a short time. And when I went, so I met him at the airport, and he looked like he was sick. He just couldn't seem to get himself together. I never saw him in that condition. And he told me what he had found out.
Very simply, Malcolm learned that Elijah had made at least a half a dozen of his personal secretaries pregnant. And this shook Malcolm to the bone, because Malcolm's devotion to Elijah was based upon Malcolm's complete belief and acceptance in Elijah's high moral code.
By having confidence in the leader of the Muslim movement, if someone came to me and I had no knowledge whatsoever of what had taken place, and they told me what I'm saying, I would kill them myself. The only thing that would prevent me from killing someone who made a statement like this, they would have to be able to let me know that it's true. Now, if anyone had come to me other than Mr. Muhammad's son, I never would have believed it, even enough to look into it. But I had been around him so closely, I had seen indications of the reality of it, but my religious sincerity made me block it out of my mind.
I said, you have been so busy that you just haven't had time to listen to anything, and said nobody was going to tell you. I said, I wasn't going to tell you, because the first thing you would have done was went back to Chicago, and because that's where he was. He would name names, who said it, and everything, and you had put somebody on the spot because they were trying to pull his coat, as he might call it.
On November 22nd of 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated, and Malcolm made some comments about that assassination. Elijah Muhammad sentenced Malcolm to 90 days of silence for those comments. Well, Malcolm accepted that verdict. And during that period of 90 days, Malcolm X sent a constant stream of letters to Elijah. At the same time, however, he sensed the importance of having some record of these letters that he was sending to Elijah, so he locked himself up in motel rooms on several occasions and tape recorded these letters.
Dear Holy Apostle, one of the main reasons people want to divide you and me is because they know Allah has blessed me to be your best representative as well as your best defender. The only ones here who may think I'm against you are those who are not really with you themselves. This is a dangerous position to be in because it only adds division upon division. I know now how Isaac felt when Abraham took him up on the mountain to sacrifice him. Only love for his father made him submit silently to what looked like certain death. I know how Job felt when everyone was looking at him, wondering what sin he had committed. His worst pain must have come from his inability to open his mouth and explain the real reason for his condition. As I told you, I've been working on these notes I've taken during conversations with you during the past 10 years. Whenever I feel lonely, forsaken, or even angry, I go back to the words of wisdom and healing in these notes. There is both hope and life in your words. With Allah's help and your permission, I can turn out a book about your life, your teachings, your work, and the program that will bring tears to your eyes, and would not only go a long way toward waking up the dead nation, but would also add to the financial needs of the nation. I do it just like I was working for you, but would actually ask nothing in return. I've received my pay from you already a millionfold. If you would have mercy upon me and give me another chance, I'd stay out of the public. I'd be satisfied to just minister in the mosque, making no public statements, nor outside speeches.
He began to doubt if his mail was even getting through. He felt like somebody there was receiving that mail and getting it, and it wasn't getting to the messenger. Because he continuously write to the messenger and tell him what he had heard, or report to him things that he thought he ought to make known, hoping to get some kind of guidance from the messenger as to how it should be handled.
So in other words, he tried to send the olive branch to Elijah, but many around Elijah intercepted it?
Intercepted it in order to keep that from taking place. They didn't want to see that happen.
And he still found himself not reinstated into the Nation of Islam. Malcolm realized that he had been silenced for reasons other than his Kennedy statement.
If you'll notice, they use their newspaper to slander me and to label me as a hypocrite and as a rebel, and Mr. Muhammad himself said that I defected. Well, in reality, I never even left the Muslim movement. They put me out.
So he decided to stay out of the Nation of Islam, and he struck out on his own. Yet, he, in his public pronouncement at least, refused to attack Elijah Muhammad. In fact, he openly voiced his support and continued belief in Elijah.
I'm a believer in the Honorable Elijah and follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm still a Muslim. My religion is Islam. I run into some obstacles in the Nation of Islam, and I feel that I can best serve the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's purpose and program and carry into existence what I feel, I understand, concerning his objectives better on the outside than I can on the inside. And now that I have the independence of action, it's my intention to work with everybody or against everybody, whatever the case may be, to try and get some kind of immediate solution to the problems that are confronting our people.
I told him then, I said, the best thing for you to do is take your family and leave here. Go to Africa or anywhere and let this thing cool down.
Immediately I saw the need for a base. And so since I am a Muslim, and I knew that I could never stand up in public and represent Mr. Muhammad anymore, and at the same time I didn't at that time want to say why I couldn't represent him, I knew, as his son told me, Wallace Muhammad, that the only salvation for the Muslims, they would have to turn toward the Orthodox religion of Islam. And it was Mr. Muhammad's son, Wallace Muhammad, who encouraged me to make the pilgrimage to Mecca and get myself orientated into the knowledge of the Orthodox religion of Islam. And at the same time, since I was a nationalist, I had to have a better knowledge of what the attitude of Africans was toward our people in this country, so I made a tour through the African nations.
In Egypt, I had an audience with President Gamal Abdel Nasser for about an hour and a half. In Tanganyika, I spent 3 hours with Julius Nyerere. I flew from Tanganyika and Zanzibar to Kenya with Prime Minister Jomo Kenyatta, who's now President Jomo Kenyatta, and Dr. Milton Obote, who will be Prime Minister of Uganda,